Hello, my crafty friends. It's the 2nd of the month, and that means it's time for another sheetload of cards. The sheetload of cards is a full-size sketch, supply list, and cutting guide that Alicia from Call Me Crafty Al puts out every month, and they are free to subscribers of her YouTube channel. So the first of each month, she releases the new sheetload, shows her finished cards, and tells you how you can go about downloading your own sheetload of cards. And then on the 2nd of the month, she shares a full process video with tips and tricks, and the collaboration team gets to share what they've made. There is an Instagram and a YouTube collaboration team. I'm on the YouTube collaboration team, and you'll notice in my title, there's a hashtag. That hashtag will take you to what all of the collaborators or the design team have done with this month's sheetload. And then if you download your own sheetload of cards, you will notice there are also hashtags. And if you make your own sheetload and share on social media, add those hashtags so we can come and check out what you've created. So the November 2022 sheetload of cards uses 3 pattern papers. It's a special edition called a split panel card, and it's a doozy. It makes 18 cards. Now, in hindsight, I should have just followed the sheetload. Life would have been so much easier. However, in my mind, I thought, well, I've got all of these patterned papers, both 6-inch and 12-inch pattern paper packages. None of them are new. They all have small pieces, scraps, bits and pieces in there. So I thought I would just go through those and pull out scraps and use up scraps. And I made it a challenge, a personal challenge, not to cut into a single sheet, not for any reason, for my cards. I didn't, of course, follow the complete cutting guide, and my yield is 16 cards, and they're mostly different. And a lot of them will be donated to my mom's old nursing home. But so let's go ahead and show you my cards. And I will hopefully give you some tips and tricks along the way. So this was the first one that I made. This is old pattern paper from Aicken Company. I didn't use anything new on my cards. Everything has been in my stash for a while. So I don't even have a real supply list because the papers are like 10, 12 years old. I know this one is by Aicken Company. And on a lot of them, this panel here, because it was kind of the feature panel, I did try to, mat with a pearlized or a metallic paper. This particular one is going to my mother-in-law, who is not feeling very well, and my husband is going to fly to visit her. So I wanted to be able to send along a thinking of you card, and I hope she feels better soon. And if you follow me, you know I always finish the insides of my cards. So all of the cards were done with the same die. This is a Divinity Designs mini slimline rectangle. It's their mini slimline layering rectangles. So I die cut one of those, and you can see you get a nice kind of embossed edge on those. And then an old Hero Arts, like really old Hero Arts stamp. And this one, Sending Big Hugs, that is from Lawn Fawn. Then those beautiful jewels. They are Spellbinders, the Color Essential Gems in the gold mix. And I've had these for a while. I stopped using them when I started using the Honeybee Prism ones, but the gold just really matched these cards. I'm going to show you the cards all separately because they're so different. I honestly don't even know. I'm going to take the group picture. It's going to look like a hot mess because of the differences in all the cards. So I did that card, and then I did this one. And that's when I realized I was in trouble with my decision to use scraps. Quite often in the paper pad, I can't even tell you how many paper pads I went through to get these 16 cards. Quite often in the paper pad, there were small pieces and lots of them, but this wider panel, I didn't have scraps that would be that wide. There were lots of like 2-inch scraps, but not one necessarily this wide, or there were scraps, but not 3 prints that actually went together. So it was a bit of a challenge. However, like I say, I did get 16 cards. Most of the birthday cards have got the same sentiment. It's an old paper tray ink sentiment, and I used my Misty for all of the stamping. And the Here's to Celebrating You, that's also an old retired stamp from Stampin' Up. So I did those 2 cards, and I'd always wanted to try this kind of split panel technique, but I wanted to try something else. So I did kind of an addition to that. And I had planned on doing a tutorial, but I had forgot to turn the camera on for the tutorial. So I had assembled the cards and just didn't want to have to recut all the pieces. So what I did differently is I actually have acetate on my cards. So most of the remaining cards have this acetate panel, and I'll go into a little bit more detail on that. But I decided I really liked the acetate better. I like the shine, of course, and what I used is transparencies. Just right on transparencies for like overhead projectors. I bought a box of like 100 3 years ago, and I use them a lot. I use them to background dies because I like the shine coming through the windows, and now I'm using them for those full front or edge to edge shakers. So I get a lot of use out of my transparencies. And yeah, so that's what I used here. And the size that I used was 4 inches. So it's the same width as the pattern papers, and then just a 3-inch height. So adhering it with a dry adhesive, say an ATG gun or a tape runner, I adhered it to the card base here and here, and then added my pattern paper on top again with a dry adhesive. Wet glue doesn't really adhere well to acetate or transparencies or plastic, but that tape runner works really well. You could also use a strong double-sided adhesive. So there's just a cute little birthday card, and I did have all 3 scraps in that one. Then I have 2 of these, and in hindsight, this would have been a really good paper package to have just done with the sheet load. I could have used 3 of the 12 by 12 sheets and called it done and had some really bright and cheerful cards, especially since the pattern papers are reversible or double-sided. But in the end, I'm still really happy with my cards. Now, the stitched circles, I didn't cut any of those circles. I not only didn't cut into any full sheets for the patterned papers or the matting, even if it was the gold or the pearl. I think I forgot to mention on this one, the matting layer on this one is a red pearl. So those were all small pieces left in the packages. And these circles here, these stitched circles, they come from the Magic Iris. I'm going to show you that here. So this donut piece here comes with the Magic Iris, which is a die set by Lawn Fawn, and you need 3 of them to make a single Magic Iris card. And they were clever enough to add a stitched line on either side of the cut line. Those circles that fall away from the center have this beautiful stitched line on them. Well, I'm not going to get rid of those. I have a little box, and whenever I have a leftover circle or label or something that I think is quite usable, I stand it up in that box, and then I just flip through. All of my sentiment elements I was able to pull out of that box, so it was really great to use those up as well. So that's those 2 cards. Then I lucked out with this paper pad, and I managed to get 3 cards, and just using the scraps. This one was a border scrap, and there was just enough to finish that card. So they all again have the same sentiment, and they all have that transparency. Now the one thing with the transparency is when you're working, they get really smudgy. There's fingerprints all over. So I waited until all of the cards were finished. And when I was done, I used a microfiber rag and just cleaned up the transparencies. Front and back, I cleaned up the insides of them as well. So that's those 3 cards. And then I thought these 2 were cute. I really liked these pattern papers. They actually came from a 6x6 pad, probably from MFT Stamps. This one I matted on the teal, and that teal was just from my scrap bin. When I turned it over to put the adhesive on, there was writing on the back of it. So I had to mat it again with white to hide that writing so it would remain nice and clean inside, which it does. I made a Christmas card, and oh my gosh, I'm so close to using up. This is a 6x6 pad that I've had for a while. Oh, so close. I think I only have 1 more card to make, and I'll have used that pad up. So basically this was the size of the piece, so it worked out perfectly. Again, I used those Spellbinders gems. And the Season's Greetings, that is a peel-off sticker. It's an old one retired from Elizabeth Craft Designs. And I used kind of a bronze or a gingerbread colored Copic marker to color over the gold before I adhered it. And that kind of toned down the bright gold a little bit. So Christmas card, this one will not, of course, be going to the nursing home. That's going into our stash to hand out. And then I did another 2 Christmas cards. These ones don't have the circle on the front. I did one that's just the split panel as shown in the sheet load. It also has the red pearl matting, and this one has the transparency. And then the sentiments, sending holiday cheer and warm winter wishes. I've shown those before. They're from Tailored Expressions. They're simple strips, but I haven't shown how I store them. So this is like a Sizzix clear plastic envelope. I've had them for years, but of course I hang on to them because they're so good for storing all number of things. I've labeled them because I have a number of the Simple Strips stamp sets. Wow, that's a mouthful. And then I just, can flip through to see which I need. So I will go in one evening and I will get the stamp out and I will just stamp it a bunch of times. So I'll stamp it in red, I will stamp it in teal. This one was the Had a Gray. I did some silver embossing, some gold embossing, and some white embossing on red cardstock. Then run them through my machine, put them in the plastic envelope, and then I'm good to go for a whole pile of Christmas cards. I don't have to get those sentiment stamps out. I just flip through here and pull out what I need. Now this one is the Mini Strips Holiday. So same idea, it's just a smaller stamp and a different die that cuts them out, but the same idea. So you get all of those, and I did them in both red and blue inks on white cardstock. And then the packaging is probably from an embellishment package. So once I'm finished with the embellishments, I save those plastic bags because they're so handy for storing just little things like this. So that's how I store all of those sentiments. This pattern paper is from Pink and Main, and it just got lost on the white cardstock. So I believe this is from Spellbinders. It's linked on my blog. I know the pattern paper from Pink and Main is retired. The sentiment on the front is the same package as the one on the inside of all the birthday cards, and that again is from Paper Tray Ink. So the cinnamon cardstock, when I made this card, of course you get 2 out of a sheet. So I made a second one with a Thanksgiving theme, and I was able to use up some stickers. And this is another circle that came out of that box of leftover pieces, and another one of the Simple Strips. And then I added some bling with the Pops of Color, which is from scrapbook.com. That is also available and linked on my blog. So there's a Thanksgiving card that I can put away to send next year. The Canadian Thanksgiving is already over. More of the stickers, and that sentiment there is linked on my blog. It's from Simon Says Stamps. And then I don't know why I didn't have this thought earlier. I really wanted to use this gold foiled pattern paper, which is actually in the same package as this one. And I couldn't find anything to coordinate with it, and then had my aha moment that they didn't all have to be different. So this was just a throwaway scrap that I mounted on just because it was gold foiled. I didn't want to get rid of it. The label is from Karen Burniston's Catherine label. It was in that bin because when it's cut out of gold foil, there's no way I'm going to toss it if I didn't use it. And then some more of the stickers. I also added one that peeks through the inside, which I quite like. And then there's a second one there. So as I said, 16 cards. They're all a little bit different. Make sure you check out that hashtag and see what the rest of the collaboration team came up with. I can't wait to see what they came up with. And I'm sure they will have amazing cards and really make me regret my decision to just use scraps. If you enjoyed my video, please give it a thumbs up. That always helps YouTubers. Subscribe to see more, and that's it for me today.